The New Hampshire and South Carolina primaries could be slammed with a flood of super PAC spending. Let's get a preview of the post-Iowa Republican campaign with Brian Gardner. He is Senior Vice President of Washington Research at KBW. Well, welcome, Brian. Now, judging by the results we've seen in Iowa, are Republicans too fractured at this point to mount a clear threat to Obama's reelection?
Well, I think it's still early, but clearly no one has really grabbed the front-runner mantle. I think Romney continues to be the front-runner, but he's not a strong front-runner. He's got the money, he's got the organization, he doesn't have the love yet, and we'll see over the next few weeks if Republicans start to kind of gel around him a little bit. But it's still an open process, an open contest, I should say.
Well, you point out he's not a strong front-runner. Is New Hampshire, though, a foregone conclusion with Mitt Romney as the winner? And if so, should we be looking at South Carolina and Newt Gingrich instead?
Well, I think that's a really interesting question because, first of all, Governor Romney governed the state right next door. He's got a vacation home in New Hampshire. He's spent a lot of time and money in New Hampshire, a lot of effort in New Hampshire. He is the clear front runner in all the polls leading into this week. We'll see what changes after Iowa. As you kind of started to allude to, Speaker Gingrich has continued to perform strongly in the polls in South Carolina despite taking it on the chin in Iowa. And Rick Perry, even though he thought it looked like he was going to get out, decided to stay in, but he's foregoing New Hampshire. So I think he's betting on South Carolina. I think the idea is that they'll probably try and bloody Romney a little bit in New Hampshire, but that the real match is in South Carolina. And ironically, that plays actually to Romney's strength a little bit because I think there'll be a lot of different conservatives vying for the conservative vote, and that could open the door for Romney, very much like the door was open for John McCain in 2008. Not beloved by the conservative wing, but took advantage of a fractured conservative wing.
Now, we saw Romney's super PAC Restore Our Future eat away at Newt Gingrich's support in Iowa. Any chance that we might see a repeat of that in South Carolina?
Well, depending on what happens in New Hampshire, I suspect he's going to start to go after Rick Santorum and examine the Santorum record. But at the same time, I think even though the other candidates don't have as much money, I do think that they're going to start to turn their guns on Romney a bit. I think he has gotten away relatively unscathed so far. But on election night in Iowa, I started to detect a few hints of the attack line against Romney, which is generally an anti-establishment attack. It worked against Gingrich, anti-Washington establishment, but somebody referred to Romney as a Wall Street insider. Newt referred to him as a Massachusetts moderate, and I think you can start to see the beginnings of the attack line on Romney, which is kind of an establishment Wall Street insider Republican, not a conservative.
Yeah, it seems like we could be in for a nasty fight. You mentioned Rick Santorum. He could be under attack as well. What about Santorum's latest fundraising efforts? Is he going to be able to sustain his campaign?
Well, he'll have to do well in New Hampshire. He doesn't have to win in New Hampshire, but he'll have to do well there and well in South Carolina to sustain it. If he starts to stumble, the blip in fundraising will be just that, a blip. It will not be sustained, and it will eventually dry up. Candidates are going to have to show at some point that they're in it for the long haul, and if so, then the money will start to come. Whether it's enough to keep them going through a fairly lengthy and grueling process is another question, but the money will stay there as long as they continue to perform. Once they start to slip and look like they're doomed to failure, then the money will dry up and they'll be out of luck.
And Brian, lastly, you referred to this earlier that it may play to Romney's strength in a way, but will we wind up seeing a splintered conservative vote as in 2008, or will it be united in South Carolina?
There are efforts to unite the vote right now. There are various conversations going on within Republican conservative circles on how to deal with this. But as of right now, I still think there's no consensus on how to deal with Romney. And I think some conservatives are coming to the conclusion that Romney may be their best choice to beat Obama, that is the ultimate goal. And while Romney is not their first choice, they'd rather back the good and not have the perfect be the enemy of the good.
All right, we'll see if he can expand his base. Thanks a lot, Brian. Our thanks to Brian Gardner, Senior Vice President of Washington Research at KBW. I'm Fred Katayama, and this is Reuters.